So the transcript is finally out, Trump's release of his conversation with the phone call from the president of the Ukraine. Now remember, the Democrats' claim was that this is impeachment. As I've been showing in my previous videos, this proves how corrupt the Democrats are because over 200 of them have called for demands of impeachment based on secondhand evidence of someone who's not even a whistleblower, someone who didn't actually hear the phone call. And yet they have no idea what the specific allegations of that whistleblower is or what the specific transcript of the phone call with the president to the president of Ukraine was. Despite that, they demanded impeachment, as did the majority of the mainstream media that's supposedly impartial. So let's see exactly what's going on. Now, I said last night that what you started to see was once Trump said, fine, I'll release the transcript, there's no quid pro quo, all of a sudden, the Democrats started to change their position. We saw Nancy Pelosi say, well, it doesn't have to be a quid pro quo for it to be impeachable. And I said we needed journalists to specifically ask what exactly would be grounds for impeachment before the transcript came out. Of course, no one did that because we don't have a real media. The best you have is people like me and other great people that are on places like YouTube and other places doing this. But I just saw an interview with Adam Schiff where he was asked specifically, what are you specifically saying is impeachable? And he said asking a foreign government for an investigation, kind of pressuring them to do that for your personal benefit. That's what they said. But under that extrapolation, what we see literally happen in this transcript with Trump, that would mean that the Crossfire Hurricane debacle, where Obama was going around, his administration was going around to all sorts of foreign countries, trying to get evidence and trying to get cooperation with his teams and his intel agencies to investigate Trump. That would all be illegal, and that would all need investigated. The Democrats in May, the 3 or 4 of them that sent a letter to the Ukraine that actually did imply a threat to them of aid if they didn't continue an investigation into Trump, that would be impeachable, and that would be reason to investigate them, and so forth. So Trump didn't do anything more. We have, again, specific examples of Trump doing less, of very similar activity, but less than what the Democrats did, and the Democrats said, what we do is fine, what Trump did is corrupt. So I'm going to go through the transcript here. I'm skipping to what I feel is the relevant part, but I'll put a link so you can read for yourself to make sure I'm not skipping out on anything. But basically, the first page or so, they're just exchanging congratulations and pleasantries to each other. So here we go. This is going to be President Trump here is listed as president, and then Zelensky is the president of the Ukraine. So let's start. Well, it's very nice of you to say that. I will say that we do a lot for the Ukraine. We spend a lot of effort and a lot of time, much more than the European countries are doing, and they should be helping you more than they are. Germany does almost nothing for you. All they do is talk, and I think that's something that you should really ask them about. When I was speaking to Angela Merkel, she talks Ukraine, but she doesn't do anything. A lot of the European countries are the same way, so I think it's something you want to look at. But the United States has been very good to Ukraine. I wouldn't say that it's reciprocally necessarily, because things are happening that are not good, but the United States has been very, very good to the Ukraine. Zelensky. Yes, you're absolutely right. Not only 100%, but actually 1,000%, and I can tell you the following. I did talk to Angela Merkel, and I did meet with her. I also met and talked with Macron, and I told them that they're not doing quite as much as they need to be doing on the issues with sanctions. They're not enforcing the sanctions. They're not working as much as they should work for the Ukraine. It turns out that even though logically the European Union should be our biggest partner, but technically the United States is much a bigger partner than the European Union. And I'm very grateful to you because the United States is doing quite a lot for the Ukraine. Much more than the European Union, especially when we are talking about sanctions against the Russian Federation. I would also like to thank you for your great support in the area of defense. We are ready to continue to cooperate for the next step. Specifically, we are almost ready to buy more javelins from the United States for defense purposes. So it's just Trump saying, hey, we help you a lot, but you should be pressuring the European Union to help you more. The Ukrainian president says, I agree. We think you've done a great job, particularly against Russia. Isn't that odd? Ukraine, who's geopolitically and geographically right next to Russia, they think that Trump's doing a good job going after Russia. Yet, if you heard the U.S. media, all Trump does is cozy up to Russia. Anyways, it's not a big issue. But I'll get to back why I read this part in a second. So let's go back to the president. Now, what you're going to hear is Adam Schiff and all of them are saying that what you just heard the president say, hey, we've done a lot of good for you. You should be pressuring the European Union to do more. They're saying that was his threat. He was saying, if you don't investigate this next paragraph I'm going to talk about, then we'll take away your aid. That is completely ludicrous. They think that's a threat, but they don't think that Joe Biden's saying, if you don't fire this prosecutor, who happens to be looking into Biden's son, then we won't give you $1 billion. That threat to them doesn't matter. So I'll get to in a second here more on that. So let's see what the president says. I would like you to do us a favor, though, because our country has been through a lot and Ukraine knows a lot about it. I would like you to find out what happened with this whole situation with Ukraine. They say CrowdStrike. I guess you have one of your wealthy people, the server. They say Ukraine has it. There are a lot of things that went on, the whole situation. I think you're surrounding yourself with some of the same people. I would like to have the Attorney General call you or your people, and I would like you to get to the bottom of it. As you saw yesterday, the whole nonsense ended with a very poor performance by a man named Robert Mueller, an incompetent performance, but they say a lot of it started with Ukraine. Whatever you do, it's very important that you do it if it's possible. Now, what he's saying is, there are allegations that there was Ukrainian meddling in the 2016 election. Isn't this what we're wasn't this the whole Mueller report? That we were supposed to be investigating claims of meddling in the 2016 election by foreigners? That was the entire idea, right? So Trump's saying there are credible accusations that there was meddling. I would like you to discuss with my Attorney General any evidence you may have to that. Now, this is no different than when Obama's going to the UK or going to Australia or the other Five Eyes or going to all sorts of other places saying, hey, we're investigating, our Attorney General's investigating a matter, or our special counsel's or our FBI's investigating a matter. We'd like your cooperation. They did that against Trump over and over. They took fake evidence and used it to spy on Trump. Here, we're just asking for evidence that hasn't been used to affect the Democrats in any way. And it's retroactive. It's looking back to the 2016 election. As opposed to when the Obama administration is doing this sort of stuff, it's leading into the 2016 election, which could affect it. But that's their claim, that this was the quid pro quo. If this is illegal, this means that no DOJ or no president could ever have his administration investigate any wrongdoing for someone who happens to be of the political opponent's party. If that wrongdoing had anything to do with foreign soil, because it would be illegal and impeachable for the president to then try to work with the foreign diplomats or the foreign president to get evidence of that crime. That is insane. And again, another example of exactly what the Democrats have done is what they're accusing Trump of doing. We have no proof there was a quid pro quo. We do have proof with Biden there was a quid pro quo. And we also have proof in May, there were at least 3 Democrats, including Bob Menendez, I think Patrick Leahy, and I forget the third one, who specifically wrote a letter to the Ukraine saying, we're going to stop giving Democrat aid to the Ukraine unless you further your investigation into Donald Trump. Now, as I'll get to later today, there was an interview with Schiff where he came out and said, this is impeachable, blah, 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 blah. And not one of the cowards in the press asked him anything about any of that. It was all softball questions. Let's see what Zelensky says. Yes, it is very important for me and everything that you just mentioned earlier. For me as a president, it's very important that we are open for any future cooperation. We are ready to open a new page on cooperation in the relations between the United States and Ukraine. For that purpose, I just recalled our ambassador from the United States, and he will be replaced by a very competent and very experienced ambassador who will work hard on making sure that our two nations are getting closer. I would also like and hope to see him having your trust and your confidence and to have personal relations with you so we could cooperate even more so. I will personally tell you that one of my assistants spoke with Mr. Giuliani. Notice how it's not Trump that brings up Rudy, it's the Ukrainian president. Just recently, we're hoping very much that Mr. Giuliani will be able to travel to the Ukraine and we will meet once he comes to the Ukraine. Now pause here. You've heard me talking about the John Solomon articles talked about how officials in the Ukraine had reported, as were officials in the United States, the Ukraine's been reaching out with evidence of Democratic corruption and possible corruption into Biden for a long time now. They were unable to get visas to be able to come reach out. They reached out to the New York AG office. They rebuked them. They're afraid to reach out to the FBI because the FBI has been exerting pressure on corrupt officials in the Ukraine to drop cases. And so they specifically tried to reach out to the State Department and Trump's personal lawyer to get this evidence because they couldn't trust giving it to these agencies that repeatedly shut them down. Now people will say, but isn't it corrupt or shady that somehow Rudy was involved? Why? He was just handing off evidence. If all of these, the real story is it's a shame that the president had to have someone like Rudy be involved in the first place because there's such corruption in the deep state. As the Ukrainians have been admitting, this conversation and transcript backs up John Solomon's reporting. We go on. Just recently, we're hoping very much Mr. Giuliani will be able to travel to the Ukraine and we will meet once he comes to the Ukraine. I just wanted to assure you once again that you have nobody but friends around us. I will make sure that I surround myself with the best and most experienced people. I also wanted to tell you that we are friends. We are great friends and you, Mr. President, have friends in our country so we can continue our strategic partnership. I also plan to surround myself with great people in addition to that investigation, which is the one into CrowdStrike and the interference into the 2016 election. I guarantee as the president of Ukraine that all the investigations will be done openly and candidly. That I can assure you. So before Trump talked to him, before this conversation and this transcript happened, the Ukrainian president was already looking into corruption of things that the Democrats were doing involving the 2016 election, working with a foreign power, the Ukraine. Now, wasn't that the entire purpose of the FBI's investigation? Wasn't that the entire purpose of the Mueller investigation? To investigate foreign influence into our 2016 election? Yet somehow, every time it comes to looking at that foreign influence, if it benefits the Democrats, we either don't look at it, or now we say it's criminal and impeachable to want to look at it. This shows they're not really concerned about foreign interference. For example, the biggest example of Russian foreign interference into our 2016 election and into our country and its governance was the fake dirt that Kremlin officials gave to Christopher Steele that was then used to spy on Trump associates. That's something that's still having ramifications today, in addition to leading to an over 2-year investigation into Trump to help stymie the goals of his administration. To this day, polls are showing somewhere near 40 to 50% of Democrats still, after the Mueller report, believe the allegations in the dossier and say that Trump is a stooge of Putin and conspired with them to steal the election. That's hands down the biggest evidence of Russian interference into our election, yet Bob Mueller didn't touch it once in his report. Not once! That was his a priori job. Get to the bottom of foreign interference, particularly Russian. Now we have another situation. Not only do they not want you looking at foreign interference, if Trump tries to have his administration look into foreign interference that benefited the Democrats, that's impeachable. Now, when Obama was having his administration make up dirt and spy on Trump and wiretap people to investigate potential foreign interference, that was fantastic. That's great. We had to allow it. The double standard is appalling. Back to Trump. Good, because I heard you had a prosecutor who was a very good, and he was shut down, and that's really unfair. A lot of people were talking about that. He's talking about the prosecutor Biden had shut down. The way they shut your very good prosecutor down, and you had some very bad people involved. Mr. Giuliani is a highly respected man. He was the mayor of New York City, a great mayor. I would like him to call you. I will ask him to call you along with the Attorney General. Rudy very much knows what's happening, and he is a very capable guy. If you could speak to him, that would be great. The former ambassador from the United States, the woman, was bad news, and the people she was dealing with in the Ukraine were bad news. So I was just want to let you know that. The other thing, there's a lot of talk about Biden's son. That Biden stopped the prosecution, and a lot of people want to find out about that. So whatever you could do with the Attorney General would be great. Notice he's talking about there are allegations of corruption. I want you to work with the Attorney General. In other words, there's an investigation going on by the Attorney General into possible corruption of Biden and his son. If that's shady, for one, the Attorney General and Barr to be having that investigation, and second, to be trying to get evidence of corruption from foreign leaders, then the entire investigation into Trump by the FBI and Mueller is also corrupt and deserves investigation, for everyone in the Obama administration was part of it. Why are they allowed to investigate their opponent and try to get dirt from foreign influence, from foreign governments, evidence to be shared with the investigators? Wouldn't that be just as illegal? Nope, it's only illegal to look into the corruption when it's Democrat corruption. Now it's illegal. When it was supposedly Republican corruption that we now know was a lie, there was no problem. We could have the multi-year investigation. Biden went around bragging that he stopped the prosecution. So if you can look into it, it sounds horrible to me. That's right, Biden did, and he has only himself to blame for making that. That's it. That's the extent of Trump talking about. He didn't say we're going to withhold money. He didn't say, I demand you find him guilty. He just said, look, I would like you to you're talking about corruption, about the CrowdStrike business, and about the 2016 election interference to help the Democrats. We also heard there's allegations that Biden's son did bad. Remember, this also would have been something that would have harmed the 2016 Democrats. If there would have been this huge scandal that would have came to light of the Obama administration extorting a foreign country to get the vice president's son off the hook, huge scandal that could have hurt the 2016 Democrats' chances. So this is, again, more examples of potential election interference and meddling. Biden admitted that he exerted this pressure. But Trump didn't offer a quid pro quo. He just said, I want you to look into this and talk to my Attorney General and my lawyer. Zelensky says, I wanted to tell you about the prosecutor. First of all, I understand and I'm knowledgeable about the situation. In other words, he's already aware of the situation before Trump bringing it up. Since we have won the absolute majority in our parliament, the next prosecutor will be 100% my person, my candidate, who will be approved by the parliament and will start as a new prosecutor in September. He or she will look into the situation, specifically to the company that you mentioned in this issue, CrowdStrike. But he's also going to look into the Biden situation. The issue of the investigation of the case is actually the issue of making sure to restore the honesty, so we will take care of that. And I will work on the investigation of the case. Now, hold here. Everyone said, the defense of Biden is, well, everyone said there was corruption of this prosecutor, and so would all these other people were saying there was corruption, and so therefore Biden was, there's no proof then that Biden wanted this prosecutor fired because he was looking into his son. No proof of that. It was about, you don't want to give $1 billion to a place that could be corrupt. The president of the Ukraine is admitting we need to look into this case of that prosecutor getting fired by extortion from Joe Biden and of the Ukraine officials giving help to the Democrats in the 2016 election, because it is important to root out the corruption and make sure that it's an honest system. Now, this is what I find ridiculous. You see Adam Schiff out there today saying, oh, this is proof. This is proof. The fact that, Trump was like a mobster. He said, hey, we give you guys aid. Now I want you to do me a favor. It'd be a shame if something happened to your country, wink, wink, nod, nod, to investigate something of personal benefit to him. They make the leap that, one, there's not an express and quid pro quo, unlike we saw with the Democratic senators in May and with Joe Biden. And second, the reason that the quid pro quo is given as a defense for Biden is they say, well, there's not proof that it was to benefit his son. Yet we have no proof. We have a credible allegation. The reason they say Biden did it was to end corruption. That is exactly why Zelensky's saying that this needs investigating. So if Biden was allowed to extort them until they ended corruption, why wasn't Trump? Now you might say, well, it looks incredibly shady for Trump because this could be personal benefit to him. Yeah, you think? In that case, if that's the argument, don't you think it's a far more personal benefit to Biden to have the actual prosecutor looking into his son be fired? So we have an actual quid pro quo, an actual more personal benefit to the person offering that quid pro quo, and that's deemed totally acceptable. But this transcript where Trump never even offers a quid pro quo, they're saying, oh, that's still impeachable. Just because he asked for evidence of interference into the 2016 election and it happened to come from the Democrats and Joe Biden. On top of that, I would kindly ask you if you would have any additional info that you could provide us. It would be helpful for the investigation to make sure we administer justice in our country. With regard to the ambassador to the United States from the Ukraine, as far as I recall, her name was Ivanovich. Do you see what he's saying? Yes, we would like to cooperate with your government. We are investigating whether or not Joe Biden was corrupt, whether or not that these companies involved in the CrowdStrike and involved in giving dirt to the 2016 Democrats, whether that broke the law. We would like to work with the United States to do that. That's what Trump and this president, this is what you do when you call. You have these sorts of conversations. You're diplomats, you're working out. Hey, we heard there's an allegation of corruption. Yeah, we're looking into that. Would you like to cooperate in finding out the evidence of this corruption? That's impeachable? This is unbelievable. Moving on. It was great that you were the first one to tell me that she was a bad ambassador because I agree with you 100%. Her attitude towards me was far from the president. She admired the previous president. And she was on his side. She would not accept me as the new president well enough. What you have to understand, Zelensky was a stand-up comic who got elected because corruption in Ukraine is so bad under the previous administration that people had enough to vote for a stand-up comic. Sounds very similar to the United States election, where they took a reality star and a businessman, Trump, without political experience and made him president. So Zelensky understands the corrupt establishment and how corrupt it could be. And he understands that his administration's been trying to cooperate with the United States to give them evidence of the wrongdoing of the previous administration, trying to interfere in the 2016 election, and leaving people like Hunter Biden off the case. But none of the deep state people in the U.S. would take it. So he went directly to the president and to the president's attorney to get that evidence out. Back to Trump. Well, she's going to go through some things. I'll have Mr. Giuliani give you a call, and I'm also going to have the Attorney General Barr call you, and we'll get to the bottom of it. I'm sure you will figure it out. I heard the prosecutor was treated very badly, and he was a very fair prosecutor, so good luck with everything. Your economy is going to get better and better, I predict. You have a lot of assets. It's a great country. I have many Ukrainian friends. And Zelensky at this point, that's kind of, you could read the list on your own, but he just talks about they'd like to meet each other, and they have friends that are in the United States and things like that. I'll link it below. So what's the takeaway from this? I encourage you to read it for yourself. 1, there was no quid pro quo as alleged. Second, Trump did a far less egregious version of what we know that Obama had done repeatedly, his administration, which was seek to get dirt, evidence of potential crimes of his political opponent. Everyone was okay with that. And it is legitimate for a president to be doing it. It's not legitimate if you're having them help spy on Americans, if you're going through foreign assets to get around U.S. law, like it's been alleged with the spying that happened on Papadopoulos and potentially on Carter Page as well. That sort of stuff's illegitimate, and we're going to get to that in the FISA report that the IG is going to be coming out with. So one, no quid pro quo. Second, just did what Trump and presidents previously have done, or what Obama and previous presidents have done. Third, the president of the Ukraine is saying that they were actively looking into this investigation before this phone call and will continue to do so and are seeking U.S. cooperation and sharing evidence to get to the bottom of the corruption, which involves, one, the Democrats working with Ukrainian officials to improperly interfere in the 2016 election, and two, the case of Joe Biden extorting and exerting pressure on officials in the Ukraine to fire a prosecutor who was looking into his son. Now, I was told when I was talking about all this Biden scandal in my previous videos this week, people were saying to me over and over on Twitter and other places, there was no investigation into Biden's son. Everyone said that guy was corrupt. There's nothing going on. Nope, there's no corruption whatsoever. The case was dropped. The case was dropped. Well, apparently the new president, the anti-corruption president of the Ukraine, seems to disagree. He says we do need to look into this. So where's that excuse now? And what it'll be is, oh, this guy's shady. As always, it will be, if this Ukrainian president ends up saying, yes, I think there was evidence of some kind of wrongdoing, then him and all of his prosecutors that come to that conclusion will be considered hacks and liars and terrible, etc. What this really comes down to is this. What this transcript proves is, not only was this nothing, it's more than nothing. The Democrats, without any evidence, demanded impeachment. That shows, as my last video said, they're the party of guilty until proven innocent. They aren't concerned with corruption. Their goal is to get Trump out of office. They'll take any reason they can have for an impeachment. They don't want to go through an actual election and uphold the results of the election. It's been that way since day one with Trump. We know this for a fact. So despite that, so in that vein, they said this was impeachable without even knowing the transcript. And now, as I predicted, they'll just say, yeah, whatever it says impeachable. And so now they're saying, well, it wasn't a quid pro quo, but it was an implied quid pro quo. And yeah, never mind that our side did the same thing. And never mind that Biden actually did give a quid pro quo. And never mind that these Ukrainian officials and this Ukrainian president says that, yes, there needs to be an investigation into Biden and into the Democrats and the Ukrainian assistance they were getting. Never mind all of that. We have to ignore all that. The same Democrats that wanted a never-ending investigation into foreign interference when they thought, oh, it's just exclusively going to be used to harm Donald Trump, this investigation, are now saying it's impeachable to look into evidence of foreign interference if it potentially indicts the Democrats. Does that sound like a group of people that are concerned about corruption or a group of people that are corrupt? We demand no stone unturned when we're looking into the Republicans and foreign influence. But if you look into our foreign influence, that's impeachable. That's corruption. That's weaponizing the intel agencies. Everything they accuse Trump of doing, they do more. And don't be mistaken. The reason that this is becoming an issue is because they know the IG report's going to come out, and it's going to be damning. How they used foreign dirt from Kremlin officials without verifying it to spy on Trump's campaign. How the FISA warrants were illegal or incredibly corrupt. They know it's going to be damning. So they're trying to muddy the waters by having this come out. And so then they could say, well, Trump asked for dirt on his opponents from a foreign leader too. So if what the intel agencies under Obama did, then what Trump did is also illegal. No. Trump just asked for an ongoing investigation and sharing of evidence. He didn't use unverified evidence from political rival or from our geopolitical foes, the Kremlin, to spy on people connected to his campaign and have a 2-year investigation. It is time to start prosecuting people. This is what the media and the Dems are going to constantly do. In black and white, you could read this transcript and see it is nowhere near being impeachable. Almost nothing shady whatsoever about this. Yet they're out there with a straight face saying this is impeachable. And their media allies are like, yeah, impeach. Yep, this is terrible for Trump. Don't believe your own lying eyes. Just like with the Mueller report. Oh, this shows that there was all kinds of corruption conspiring with Russia. No, it didn't. It said the opposite. The exact opposite. Just like with the IG report in Comey that showed that he broke all these protocols and was referred for criminal prosecution. Oh, Comey was out celebrating. Vindication for Comey. The media says, oh, this proves nothing shady went on. Over and over. This isn't just, what they're going to do is they're going to try to scapegoat Biden. Don't let them scapegoat Biden. Yes, he's corrupt, but so's the Obama administration that signed off on this. And furthermore, so's the entire media and the entire Democrat establishment that knew about this and defended this behavior until it wouldn't politically benefit them. It's all corrupt. All you need to know is before they had any evidence of the transcript, they said impeachment. So are you surprised they're continuing to say impeachment after the transcript comes out and shows that all of these allegations of quid pro quo and all of the other things they were saying is total garbage? So, hey, if you like this video, please like and subscribe. Look for me to be putting out more material soon. Follow me on Twitter and at BitChute. I'll put the links below. Please recommend me some friends if you could. I'm trying to get my material out there more. And I'm probably going to be doing a live stream around 2:15 on everything associated with this in the background with it. So, thanks a lot, everyone, and have a good one.